Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, I'm bringing you yet another video. I'm just crazy about doing videos today. What I'm going to attempt to do, or what I'm going to do, is install VMware ESXi version 6.0.0 version 2, update 2, on my new Dell server, and see what that's all about, and then give you my conclusions on running ESXi on this Dell. So, without further ado, let's get this video started, and I hope you enjoy it. So the Dell R710 server does not have a USB, does not have a DVD or CD-ROM drive. So we're going to need a USB key to install it. Now, again, my videos are not tutorial videos. They're more like how-to videos on how I did it. So the first thing you need to do is you're going to need to go out to VMware, and you're going to need to set up an account with them in order to download the ESXi software. So I'm going to leave you to your own devices to do that. Do a Google search on it. You're going to need that, and you're going to need the VM client, virtual machine client software as well. So download both of those while you're at it. Now, that being said, the ESXi installation software also includes the VM client. So if you want to skip that step, I think you'll be okay, because you can download it once you connect to the server. So the first thing we need to do is create a bootable USB drive. Now, what I'm going to do on my ESXi installation, I'm not going to install it on my hard drive, because ESXi will take up the entire hard drive to install it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to boot off this USB key, and then I'm also going to install ESXi onto this key. And I'll show you how we do that. It's fairly straightforward. And then from that point on, this key will then boot, will be my boot device for ESXi. It just makes things a lot simpler. So I use a program called Rufus to install my ESXi software onto that USB key. So let me switch over here. There we go. And let's launch Rufus. There we go. So I'm going to select I've already got ESXi installed, but I need to change some settings here. I need to go up and do this, changes to MBR partition scheme for BIOS or UEFI. It's going to be FAT32. I'm just going to call it ESXi, and then I'm going to point it to an ISO image. And if I go into my apps drive on my network, or my SAN or NAS, I have the VMware VM Visor installer 6.0.0 update 02. So I'll select that, click on open, and then accept the defaults for everything else. So let's see. No, I want to change that back. Alright, you got to be careful because it changed that. So, alright, it's got the ISO image available, standard, and we'll click on start. It's going to warn you that the USB key is going to be overwritten. That's fine. It contains multiple partitions. That's fine, and we'll tell it OK. All right, and so we'll let it run. Right, the creation of the USB key is complete, so we'll close it, and then we're going to go out and we are going to eject that. Let me do that here. Eject. I know you couldn't see that, but trust me, it is ejected. All right, so now it's time to go over the server and work a little magic there. So follow me over to the server. Come on. Come on, I know you want to. You're curious about this. Now, let me see if I can get a shot of this. I'm going to need to put some more light on the subject. Let me take the camera here. Inside this server, this is at the very front of the unit. right here. Here's an SD card slot, and here is a place to put a USB key. So that's what I'm going to do. I've got this SanDisk, and I'm going to simply plug that in. So the USB key now is inside, and let's put the cover back on and we'll boot this unit up. Alright, so we've gone into the BIOS now. You need to remember you need to boot off your USB key in your BIOS. Hang on a second, Control E. There we go. I need to, while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and set up the, first thing I'm going to do is reset the default. Yes, please. This is for the iDRAC controller, and I forgot I need to configure an IP address for it, so we might as well do it while we're here doing the video. Now, because the iDRAC controls the fans on this system, anytime you reset it, it loses control of the fans and it goes into, I guess, what you would call an emergency mode, and ramps up the fans just to protect the server. And then once the iDRAC controller comes back online, it takes control of the fans again. Now, I've never had these fans ramp up under normal operation. It stays fairly cool in that server room. Alright, so I've set up my iDRAC with the proper settings, and I'm going to save them, and I think it's going to make the server reboot. Oh no, there it goes. So now it's going to boot off the USB key, ESXi. Okay, it's just telling us VMware installs on most systems, but check the compatibility guide just to make sure your system is supported. So I'm going to hit enter and continue. I'm going to hit F11 to accept. Now it's going to find my RAID 1 array out there, and it's also going to find the USB key, and by default it's going to try and throw it onto the Dell PERT controller. I don't want it to. I want to install it on the USB key that I booted off of. So I'm gonna select that. It turns it yellow, and I'm gonna hit the enter key. Okay, now it's gonna warn me it's gonna wipe out the existing data, so I wouldn't be able to boot the installer off of this again. That's all it's telling me. I'm gonna tell it enter for OK. US keyboard. I'm gonna enter my super secret password on a keyboard with worn out letters and numbers. So you have to be a true typist to remember how this works. Alright, so it's telling me it's going to install it on the key. That's what this is. The disk will be repartitioned. I'm going to hit F11. Alrighty, I do believe we have a successful install. At least that's what it tells us on the screen. So we will reboot the server by hitting enter, and we will let it shut down and restart. Okay, so it's been given a DHCP address, but that's not the one I want it to use. So I'm going to come down here and press the F2 key, and I'm going to customize this. You need to enter your password here. Alright, so I'm going to go to the management network, IPv4 configuration, and I'm going to set a static IP address, and I'm going to use 192.168.5.7 is the one I believe I used. Oops, sorry, 192.168.5.7. Let's make sure that's correct. Alright, let's go to DNS configuration. It's already got that. We want to call this MCS-ESXi-001 is going to be the name of this one. And it's already found the MCS.local. Let me auto adjust this monitor here. Samsung monitor's been a trooper, but it's got a capacitor going bad. There we go. Now it all fits. Alright, so let me escape. Yes, apply. Okay, and it looks like it's got the right IP address in there now. I'm going to disable IPv6 because I don't use it. And I don't want it to, yes, please. That's going to require a reboot. I don't use IPv6 and I don't want it running. Alright, so we're up and running. It looks like we have the proper static hard-coded IP address, and we're ready to carry on with the next step of getting ESXi configured. That was a fairly simple install, and what I love about VMware ESXi is you can install that sucker on a USB key, and on that Dell, as I showed you on the video, I have an internal USB slot, so it made it very easy to install it. It was a breeze. I didn't have any trouble at all. Let me bring up the ESXi, or let me bring up the vSphere client and show you what I've got here. So I'm going to turn away from the camera. I really don't need to be on the screen, but I just want you to know it's me. So a lot of you asked in the previous video what the specs were for that server. It's got two 5640 Xeon processors, 2.66 gig. Each one of those is got 8 cores in it, and so a total of 16 logical processors. So two CPUs, 4 cores per socket. I don't know why 4 times 2 is 8, not 16. So again, hyper-threading. It's got 4 network cards on a gigabit network card. It's got 24 gig of RAM, and it has 2 140 gig SAS drives running at 15K. Now this particular model of server run will work with SAS or serial ATA drives, so that's a good thing. So I have a question though. Now I've made a decision. ESXi is not going to remain on this system. I got this system because I wanted to run Hyper-V on it, but for those of you who wanted me to try ESXi on it, so I did it. And I am going to keep ESXi. So you remember that beige box I created a few weeks ago that had Server 2016 on it. I'm going to convert that to run ESXi and make that my ESXi VMware server. So it's not going away totally, because I do have some need for ESXi. I like creating Linux machines better on VMware than I do on Hyper-V. They work the same, but I'd just rather have my Linux machines or servers that I'm playing around with, that kind of thing, on a different server. So that's for me. But I have a question. Okay, here we go. What the hell is using 2 gig of memory? You know, one of the reasons people said to use ESXi is because it has a lower footprint. But there's no GUI on ESXi. It's all Linux. It's all it's all a shell, all shell commands. What the hell is eating up my RAM? Something is using up 1.7 gig of RAM. Now, when I install Windows Server 2016 in there natively with Hyper-V loaded, at idle it consumes 1.2 gig of RAM. I don't understand that. And then if I go here to resource allocation, you'll see I only have 20 gigabytes of RAM available. So, and there's nothing running. I created a couple of test machines on there, but nothing is running. Nothing is eating up RAM. Where did not only 1.7 gig go, but where did the other 4 gig go? Now, in doing a little research, I believe they're allowing for overhead, because each virtual machine that runs with 4 gig of RAM has a little bit, or with any RAM has a little bit of overhead. But yeah, I'm just wondering where the RAM savings is on this that everybody was talking about. So that's good. I do like that VMware also has a way to go in there and check your resources. I don't know where that's at, performance resource, but it tells you all the internal system temperatures, what your fan speed is. I like that. That's another feature of VMware ESXi I like. But it doesn't have live migration. Well, since 2012 R2, Microsoft has put in live migrations right out of the box. It's not something that you need to pay them extra for. It just deals with it. The other big deal is you can't run Windows software on here natively. So on my other Hyper-V server, I can run Windows Server 2012, and then under that I'm running Plex. And in this setup, I would have to create a separate virtual machine, which requires a license, which also requires a license fee in order to run like Plex. And then it's on a virtual machine consuming its own memory. Resources have to be allocated to it, etc. So that's one of the main reasons I run. And the other reason is like my program called Drive Bender. So if I ran ESXi, I would then have to create a virtual machine with access to hard drives that are pass-through devices in order for Drive Bender then to control them. So if you saw my video on my NAS or SAN, I use a proprietary or a off-the-shelf piece of software called Drive Bender. It allows me to go down to the folder level and mirror at the folder level rather than at the drive level, which is very important because some stuff I don't need to have mirrored. And some stuff I do, just in case I have a failure of one drive. That way I don't have a catastrophic failure. Let's see here. The only way to do updates that I'm aware of on ESXi is through the command line, or you have to pop another USB drive in there with the updated software and do an update that way. Windows, I can just do the updates natively, including drivers, etc. I don't have to fudge with that. Although ESXi, once you get it up and run, it's as stable as Windows. So the other one, which is big for me because I deal with a lot of clients that run workstations, run 10 or more Windows workstations on Hyper-V, and then give them remote access from around the world so that they don't have a desktop per se, they have a desktop on a major server. And the big thing on that is dynamic memory, because I can assign a machine with a small amount of memory to start up with, and as the user uses more functions, Windows allocates more memory to them. So in essence, I can oversubscribe memory. Now I know you can do it similarly under ESXi, but you can't do it the way that Windows does it. So again, I like ESXi. It installed easily. I am going to keep it, but I'm going to put it on another machine. I have decided that I'm going to put Windows Server 2016 on this server and install Hyper-V on it. And that way I have two Windows servers that can do live migrations and move stuff between them, etc. And another good reason for me wanting to have Windows as my base operating system is I use a program called Veeam Backup that allows me to image my machines as a zip file. So I'm going to do a video on that as well. I'm going to show you how I configure that, because Veeam is what I use to back up and restore machines rather than importing and exporting from Microsoft. The problem of late has been I just haven't had a Veeam backup machine to do that on. So we're going to be doing that in a forthcoming video. So ESXi, you're good. I'm going to throw it on that AMD quad core machine that I have, that beige box with 16 gig of RAM, and use it as a Linux only hosting server. So there you go. ESXi was installed. It works well. I'm not going to keep it though, and there you have it. So there you have it. ESXi on the Dell R710 server. It went extremely well. It was fairly easy. The hardest part I had with this Dell was waiting for the damn firmware updates to do in my previous video, but it's been fun. I've enjoyed it, and I'm getting to know this Dell quite a bit better than I did previously. So hope you found this video informative and educational, and if you like it, give us a thumbs up down below. If you dislike it, give us a dislike, although we prefer these over these. Leave some comments down below. Y'all have been great at commenting. I love the interaction I'm getting from your guys' experience, and nobody's getting feelings hurt or nobody's being mean about it. Everybody's having a good time with it. That's what this channel was meant to be about. So keep the comments coming. I love them. And again, thanks for the donations for this server. Greatly appreciated. And I guess we'll see you on the other side.